The town that was here on Spa Creek in the late 17th century wasn't much. But when Maryland's capital was moved from St. Mary's City down the Potomac to the shores of Spa Creek in 1695, it gave life to the city, and it was certainly the most important thing that had happened in its life to that point. Without being the capital, the town probably would not have been much. Annapolis was the seat of Congress for just under a year at the end of the Revolution. It was here that two very important events occurred. One of them, the resignation by George Washington as Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army, which he did on the 23rd of December, 1783, here in our State House in the old Senate chamber, which is now being redone to reflect its appearance at the time that Washington was here. The second was the ratification of the Treaty of Paris, the ending of the Revolutionary War, which took place again in our State House, the same one that we see today. The Civil War disrupted the town, as any town would be disrupted by the fact that it suddenly had 10,000, 15,000, 20,000 men landing on its shores, men who were, in many cases, very ill, wounded, coming in from battlefields from the southern prison camps. These were Union men because this was became a Union outpost. The Naval Academy had gone to Newport, Rhode Island, and was taken over by the Union Army. The city was divided in its thoughts. There were a good many Confederate supporters, but there were an awful lot of Union people too. But no matter whether they were Union or Confederate, having thousands of people on your streets, wagons tearing up your streets, mud and dust and dirt and noise and sickness, it's terribly depressing. 4 years of it, it was very difficult. Annapolis did not have a lot of options after the Revolution. When Baltimore became the major town in Maryland, which it did very quickly, for a lot of reasons, mostly a deep harbor and contact with western Maryland and western Pennsylvania. Annapolis didn't have those things. And it looked like the town was going to just simply fold up and die. The only thing it had was the capital of the state, and every once in a while the legislature would threaten to take that away too. So the city fathers had to look for something really unique to keep it going. They did. Just before the Second World War, there were a number of very special boats built here in Eastport at the Annapolis Yacht Yard. And the boats were a shallow, very, very fast, small boat built for the British Navy and also for the Russians. They were, would go perhaps 45 miles an hour, and they were sea tested out here in the Severn and on the Chesapeake Bay. Very, very fast, very, very lethal boats. The book, yes, the Annapolis book ends in 1975 because I think really most of the things that affect the city today were in place at that time, particularly the preservation end of it. And I think it's very important to understand how the city chose very deliberately to make itself a center of preservation, a center that would attract tourists. This was not done easily, and it didn't happen all at one time. It was something that went on over a fairly long period of time. But it's an important piece of our history which we need to understand.